What's up? My name is Thomas Williams, known as Thomas R. Williams. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, professional speaker, former NFL professional athlete, now an NFL player engagement ambassador. I have two books. One's called Permission to Dream. The other is called The Relentless Pursuit of Greatness. I'm also director of a nonprofit organization called Pursuits of Greatness. I'm doing this Can I Be Vulnerable video because for me, for the longest times, I have not given myself permission to be vulnerable. So hoping that this message and this video gives somebody else the opportunity and permission to be vulnerable. So check it out. Please, 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 please don't judge me. I'm getting ready to share. Have I been to therapy? Man, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was at a golf tournament, obviously living in LA, fresh out of football. Being a quote unquote celebrity or something like that, you always get opportunities to come to appearances and things like that. So I get invited, play 18 holes of golf. At the very end of the golf tournament, I'm sitting there at the table. They're getting ready to announce awards, longest drive, etc. And I just hear this voice like, I don't want to be here anymore. And then all of a sudden, I stand up and I went over to the person who invited me and I just shook their hands and said, thank you so much for bringing me. And I'm going to leave. And they looked at me kind of like, dang, where are you going? The party just started. I'm like, nah, it's been a long day. And I just walked outside and I remember hearing the same voice, right? Now, you might think I'm crazy, but we got voices, right? And so the voice was like, I don't want to be here. And I got in my car and I'm driving. And then I started driving faster, thinking for a moment of what would my life be like if I no longer existed, if I wasn't here any longer. I called a friend. My friend was saying, Thomas, you've swept so many things under the rug for so long in your life, you're getting ready to trip over the rug. And what she was really saying was, you haven't dealt with all the issues. You just kind of put them to the side because you had football and you had something else to give you an outlet, but you have to actually deal with the issues. And so she was like, you walk around a lot and you don't cuss, you come off as very articulate and perfect, so to speak. She goes, I want you to give me 10 cuss words right now at the top of your lungs. And I was like, damn it. She's like, nah, it's like some real ones. So I'm just dropping, I'm MFing, I'm, everything in the book. And it felt so good to be able to release that and to be real, to be vulnerable. And the next week, man, I started doing digging and finding out who could help me as far as therapists. Went to a couple, sat with one, sat with another. And then I finally found my guy who I was with for 5 years. And it was crazy because I went there and I didn't want to talk about nothing when I first started going. It's like I talked to him like one of my homies. He's like, you pay me to let go of things. And when he said that, it clicked for me. And I was like, man, let me tell you about everything. But I'll also tell you the truth about something that really messed me up. Inside of saying that is that I wouldn't deal with things as they were coming. I would just wait to hold on to them and start dealing with them when I went to therapy, which was bad for relationships, bad, friendships, because I wasn't being in the moment and I wasn't expressing myself to people. I was just expressing myself to my therapist. How has healing impacted my relationship with others? I would say first and foremost, healing for me started with me. And so I used to be so judgmental and I was not a forgiving person. And I found out that the reason why I wasn't forgiving of others because I wasn't forgiving myself. Nothing was ever good enough. I wasn't worthy. I wasn't good enough. All of those negative conversations that I was having with myself until I was going to therapy, until I was looking at myself in the mirror and saying, you're not perfect. You're not perfect. There's nothing, even though you strive for perfection, there's nothing that you could ever do in this world to be perfect, which means that everybody else is not perfect. And it's okay for me not to be perfect, which allowed me to give everybody their space to be who they are too. What scares me? What scares me? I would say love scares me. I can give love, I can give things, I can do for others. But anytime somebody does something for me, whether you love me, whether you give me something, whether you celebrate me, I get scared. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know how to take a compliment. I don't know how to take, if somebody wants to take me out to eat. I'll give you a perfect example. I wrote my second book. and the woman who I was dating at the time, she wanted to celebrate me. She made dinner reservations. She wanted to celebrate me writing my book, and the bill came, and I didn't let her pay for it. And it wasn't about letting her pay for the bill, but it was about letting her celebrate me. I robbed her of an opportunity to celebrate me because I don't know how to accept. I don't know how to receive. And a lot of this stems from childhood and early on situations where if somebody ever did something for me, a couple times it happened, they would always bring it back up later on and they would use it against me. And they would manipulate. Perfect story. Second grade, lived with my dad in North Carolina. And I always wanted this motorcycle. We'd drive by it and I'd be like, Dad, let me get the motorcycle. He'd be like, nope. Like, Dad, let me get the motorcycle. He'd be like, nope. Until one night, him and his girlfriend got in an argument, physical confrontation. She left and he wanted her back. He had been drinking and he called me from my room into his room and he said, Thomas, call such and such. I can't even remember her name. And I'm like, why? He goes, tell her that I'm sorry and I want her back. I'm not going to do it. He goes, what do you want? I was like, I want the motorcycle. So my dad goes, all right, tomorrow we'll go down and get the motorcycle. I called her. Long story short, she never came back and some other things happened. But it was because of situations like that where people would use things against me and bring it back up. And so rather than trying to understand the person and the genuineness that they have, I personally have never gone through those dynamics in the situation where I go, you know what? Rather than trying to decipher who's real, who's not, everybody can't give me anything, which it makes it hard in all of my relationships, all of my friendships, because if you give me a drink of water, I'm going to try and buy you some food. If you buy me some food, I'm going to try to bring something else where I can't just allow you, anyone else to celebrate me or to do something for me. What do I fear? I fear not being good enough. I fear, and what I mean when I say that is that I fear that whether it's the time for me to become a husband or a father or whatever the future has to hold, that I'm not going to be good enough and I'm not going to get the job done. And I fear that based off of my dad, listening to the stories about his father, because it doesn't seem like we do good at this whole parenting husband thing. And so I really genuinely fear that. One of my biggest weaknesses, I would say, is patience. I don't have any patience. I don't have patience when it comes to work. I don't have patience when it comes to relationships with people. Like if we have a discussion that it needs to be fixed tomorrow, I don't have patience. Again, that comes back to patience with myself and wanting things to happen overnight. I would say another one of my weaknesses are being real, being authentic. I feel like I feel like I'm just starting to come out right now as far as letting the world into my world, where the music that I listen to, am I listening to the music to be accepted by other people? Or do I like whatever I'm wearing because other people are going to like it? So I would say authenticity and being vulnerable. A weakness also, too, is my identity. Growing up biracial. Am I black? Am I white? Can I say the N-word? Don't I? Why? Like, I can't say the N-word. When I'm around this crowd, I have to act this way. When I'm around this crowd, I have to act this way instead of just being Thomas. And I fight that. I've fought it ever since I was as a kid.
Right.
Man, even something else as much as like, I remember when I was a kid, I get made fun of because of my hair, right? Now it's a little nappy right now, but you know, I wore the hat. But I'm saying, like, I would never walk outside the house like this.
Right.
Like, not even brush, just with without no soul glow. Without no soul glow, right? I couldn't walk out the house without my hair being done because I remember in first grade on the playground, I would look at kids and I would be like, yo, you got slick back hair like the old school Pat Riley joint, or you got the spiked hair. And I'm like, yo, I want my hair to do that. And I was like, how does your hair do that? And to them, they're like, oh, you just put water in it. So we literally walked over to the water fountain, put water in my hair, and it was like That's not gonna happen. Like that's not what your hair is made to do. And so for the longest time, man, I was insecure about my hair, and I would say insecurities. My insecurities and not really being okay with them.
Right.
What does it mean to be a man? As honest as this is gonna sound and be, is I don't know. I don't know what does it mean to be a man. I think
that's fine. Like
well, I mean, this is what I mean by that. I think being certain, being strong in the sense of when other people depend on you, but also being strong enough to be vulnerable. Because as I was going through therapy, I remember my therapist told me one time, he said, true strength is being able to be vulnerable. True strength. Because I remember thinking like a whole bunch, it's not cool, especially playing sports. It's not cool to be soft. It's not cool to cry. It's not cool to tell somebody like, hey, I don't feel like being a tough guy today. I don't feel like being a macho man today. Superman needs to take his cape off. And I think being cool with being able to say like, look, I'm like 50% right now. Like I'm not Jordan in the fourth quarter with the flu. Like I'm not, like I can't do it. And so I think that's part of being a man, is being able to tell people, anybody who around, what you're really feeling, and being okay with not being 100%.
Yeah.
What motivates me? I'm gonna start with one, my love language. So it's words of affirmation. You affirm me, man, we can go a long way in life. Like, you want me to do something, affirm when I do it, because at the end of the day, if you keep rewarding me with those affirmations, telling me I did a good job, telling me how that makes you feel, we're winning. Another thing that motivates me is seeing the impact that I have on others. And so being a motivational speaker, going into schools, going into organizations, when you get some type of response, whether it's through a DM or it's through an email, or even after a conference when somebody comes up to you and says, hey, your words impacted me. That motivates me, because at the end of the day, I want to know that I matter. Like, I want to know that there's a purpose for my life. I want to know that, like, I'm not just going through this life motionless.
Just floating through.
So I want to make sure that it matters. I think part of me, as much as I'm scared and afraid and uncertain about fatherhood and being a partner, spouse, there's a little bit of me that my legacy motivates me. Like, what was all of it done for? What was it worth? And if I produce a seed, can he come out and do it better than I did? I would say what's most important to me, being fulfilled.
It is.
Every single day, I'm on this kick right now. Am I living the life I want to live, or am I living the life I have to live? And if I'm living the life that I have to live, what am I doing? Ownership part, about getting to the place where I can live the life I want to live. And if I can wake up most days and most of the time throughout the day saying I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing, I feel like that's fulfillment. How has healing changed me? Well, I would say first and foremost is it showed me that I'm not responsible for other people's feelings. And when you're not responsible for other people's feelings, or when you know that you're not responsible, it takes such a huge burden off you. At least for me, growing up, single parent, only child, it was about everybody else. Is everybody else happy? Is everybody else smiling? Is everybody else good? And when I took that burden away from myself, and when I said I'm responsible for the energy that I bring to the table, it made my life so much more enjoyable. Healing is soulful. It fills your soul. Growth is never ending. So for me, football was my dad. Football was everything that I believe represents fatherhood, discipline, communication, affirmation, confidence,
ethic.
work ethic, sacrifice. Like, you can go on and on and on. So even though my father, I spent probably my first 3 years with my dad from birth to 3. Parents separated, got a divorce. I lived with my dad at 7 years old, 2nd grade. And other than that, he was out of my life. Like, we would talk on the phone or we would see each other, but it was just, honeymoon type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found football and I was like, oh, I'm healed. I'm good because I have this game where I can let out all of my aggression and I'm still getting that void filled. Once I stopped playing football, it was, yo, the issue's here and it hasn't gone anywhere. You've just masked it for so long. And so once I left the game of football, when you hear athletes talk about the transition or when they're leaving, it's so difficult. The game part wasn't difficult. What was difficult was now you got to deal with the truth. And the truth is your father wasn't there. So you can either continue to hold on to all of that pain and all of the things that bother you, or you can deal with it. And for me, for the longest time, I hid from it. So what did that mean for me is I was getting in and out of relationships. And the relationship could last months. The relationship could last days. And that was a really negative spiral for me to go down because the only thing I was doing is I was prolonging the time in between actually dealing with the situation. And I was hurting the feelings of people who didn't deserve to be hurt. Like, I'm 100% positive I have dated the person I was supposed to marry, right? She got away. And not even just her. There was probably a couple hers that got away.
More than one soulmate.
And that's not fair because I did some damage to them that they took with them into next relationships, right? Yeah. So it wasn't just affecting me, my transition, my father not being there. But what happened is I had to have a man-to-man conversation, several, not just one. Like, hey, I'm going to talk to you for 15 minutes. We're going to be good. This is 27 years of pain that is going to come out within the next hour. It's going to come. It might be every single time I talk to you for the next year. But I came to the realization of my dad did the best that he knew how to do with that time that he had with me. And another thing that I'm afraid of is if I have a child, I'm afraid of falling into the same trap. And I think even more importantly is that I'm afraid of experiencing some of the same hardships that he did. And now I have to go, that's why he did it.
Right.
He wasn't a bad person. He made a bad decision. That was a bad choice. So for me, yeah, man, a lot of my issues and a lot of my trust in uncomfortable situations come from dad not being there. And growing up, where you talk about, what does it mean to be a man? For a lot of my life, it was just me and my mom. So she's doing the best that she can, but at the end of the day, she's still a woman. Yes. And she's still led by her feminine side, even though she has a masculine aspect to her because she's got to be tough. She could only do so much. Right. And that's why I probably think a lot of my sensitive side comes from the exposure, right? Nature versus nurture. And for me, I am sensitive. I'll cry during some random commercial or movies of why are you crying? Because there's something inside of me that brings up, right, or a memory or reminiscing. So yeah, my message to you is to find 2, maybe 3 people that you trust. It doesn't have to be a best friend that you live on the same block with, you live in the same community with, you live in the same neighborhood with, but it has to be somebody who you can trust and not feel judged. Because when we walk around with all of this heavy stuff inside of our soul, inside of our hearts, it makes us very aggressive, very angry. And when you feel like you can't talk to somebody, then you feel like a permanent action or permanent solution is the only way to fix a temporary problem. Be vulnerable. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be you. Everybody's heard this quote. Be you because everybody else is taken. And that's real. Be you. Be you. Can I be vulnerable? We out.